Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and I hope you're doing well. I wanted to talk about this breaking election story here because it ties into this bigger issue we're seeing here in Colorado politics. So often people wonder, how do these extreme left wing authoritarians get office in Colorado? Well, oftentimes they're appointed, not elected. So here we have a case where State Senator Chris Hansen is resigning, and there's going to be a vacancy committee to appoint his successor. Now, these vacancy committees can come down to 20, 30 votes, and sometimes the most outrageous and extreme candidates for office end up getting appointed and taking the spot of somebody like Chris Hansen. So you got to think, here we are a week after the election, and Chris Hansen's resigning. I can only imagine he was planning on resigning before the election. So to really without name calling, it seems a little dishonest to me that here you are running for office, asking people to vote for you to represent their community, knowing you're just going to step out as soon as the election is over. Pretty undemocratic because you're not really giving people the true choice to appoint who's going to represent them. Instead, you're turning it over to this vacancy committee, which is a small group of party insiders that are going to make this decision for everybody else in that district. So, vacancy committees for years have been considered extremely undemocratic and dishonest, and we're going to get into some of that right now. So, as you can see here from KDVR, Chris Hansen plans to resign after landslide reelection win. I'll have everything linked at Free State, Colorado. As you can see, Chris Hansen got 75,000 votes. It's a pretty decisive victory. Definitely a Democratic stronghold. David Aiken putting up the good fight there, Libertarian candidate, got 14,000 votes. It's a Democratic stronghold for sure. But Chris Hansen wanted to ensure that the seat was going to remain in Democratic hands. If he had resigned before the election, there's a chance that somebody else could have won. Maybe David Aiken could have won, right? Especially if it was some no name new Democratic candidate. You never know. But because he won, now he's resigning, a vacancy committee for Senate District 31, made up of Democratic Party insiders, will decide that replacement. So, for years now, we've seen a lot of criticism about these vacancy committees or vacancy appointments. Here's an article from February of this year from Marianne Goodland over at Colorado Politics. 28 lawmakers appointed to 29 seats by small groups of party insiders. Wow. I mean, we have 100 seats in our state legislature, and I think at one time, all at once, there's maybe 25 plus legislators who were serving down there who were never even elected by the people. They're appointed by these committees. So here's some highlights from that article. Of the 29 appointed seats at the Capitol, 8 came from the 2022 election and into the 2023 session. 6 seats were vacated in the House and 2 stepped down in the Senate. 7 of the 8 lawmakers who gained their seats through vacancies since the 2022 election have yet to face voters, and they did so here now in 2024. But you got to think, an incumbent legislator who's already been serving, who already has that title next to their name, who has support from PACs, lobbyists, and 527s, is going to have a little bit better chance than some new person running for office without that kind of recognition. So just by being an incumbent, by being appointed, you have a leg up over your competition. 18 of the 29 lawmakers have gained their elected seat through vacancy in this decade alone. Wow. So, I mean, we have a very undemocratic problem down at the state capitol where you have legislators appointed who are necessarily never elected. And that's what we're going to see with Chris Hansen's a replacement. We just had an election. Now there's going to be somebody put in that position, very powerful state Senate seat that is never elected by the voters. Doesn't it seem like a problem? Well, let's look at some of the problems we've seen over these last few years. Now, these 5 are some of the most extreme authoritarian left legislators down in our state government, and they've done a terrible job. They've done an absolutely horrible job serving in our community, if you ask me. Looking at that top left, I know it's a smaller image, but that is Lorena Garcia on a tweet from Colorado Springs DSA. It's the Democratic Socialists of America saying Socialist Electoral Strategy Panel featuring panelist Lorena Garcia. Lorena Garcia is a card carrying member of the Democratic Socialists of America, a far left radical organization that has its roots in communism, Communist Party, and just Marxist theory in general. She was appointed with 23 votes. Lorena Garcia got her a first position in our state government from 23 people. 23 people in that Democratic Party vacancy committee who voted for her. put her in position. Now, don't get me wrong, she's been reelected like most of these people have since then. But like I said, once you're an incumbent, once you have that title next to your name, you have those connections down at the Capitol, getting reelected is a lot easier than running on your own originally. Below that, we have Representative Stephen Woodrow, who infamously fled Twitter after the failed assassination attempt on former and future President Donald Trump. Woodrow said, "The last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil, but here we are." Absolutely outrageous. We have somebody who survived an assassin's bullet. And then, of course, a sitting state legislature here in Colorado, Woodrow has that comment. Woodrow was placed into office with 45 votes. 45 votes. So you have to wonder, these extreme left legislators, how do they get into position? Well, sometimes it's through these vacancy committees. In the middle there, you got Andy Bosnecker, 43 votes. Now, Andy, if you didn't know, has been a sponsor of gun bans, the quote unquote assault weapons ban, some other authoritarian legislation. And what you may not know is that Bosnecker actually voted against an audit that would have looked into COVID-19 testing failures that occurred during a spike of 1,100 nursing home deaths in Colorado during the 2020 Christmas season. That was the worst nursing home death rate in the nation. And Bosnecker voted against that audit. That's bad news. 43 votes got him his position. Then you got Manny Rootnell up there with that pita barrel that he's wearing around so embarrassingly. Now that was when he was an undergraduate, I believe, at University of Florida, but definitely a PETA vegetarian animal rights activist, extremist, really going against the ranching community, going against our agricultural community, really attacking our traditional way of life here in Colorado. He was appointed with 23 votes. 23 votes in a vacancy committee. Below him there you have Kyle Brown, 41 votes appointed as well. Guy's been a disaster. You can definitely look up their voting records and see just how bad these people are. But the point is, none of these people were originally elected into office. They were appointed and given their positions through these vacancy committees. Now, let us not forget Tim Hernandez, probably the most infamous appointment we've seen in the last few years. 39 votes is all it took for him to win his position. And I shouldn't say win, but nonetheless, there's a tweet from the Denver Democratic Socialists of America in August of last year. Huge congratulations to our member, Tim Hernandez, the next representative for State House District 4. Socialism is the future. So another card-carrying member of the Democratic Socialists of America with his raised Marxist fist, calling for a forceful cultural revolution against whiteness, former Aurora Public Schools teacher. And there he is in that bottom left on October 8th, 2023, the day after Israel was attacked in that horrible terrorist attack, standing in solidarity for the Palestinians in his suit, um, unapologetic and unquestioned and challenged by some members of the public, but totally unapologetic for the violence that occurred that day. So Tim Hernandez, the extremist of the extreme. Now, thankfully, the Democratic Party recognized how extreme Tim Hernandez was, as well as Elizabeth Epps, who was voted in, who was not appointed through a vacancy committee, and took them both out of office, out of contention during the primary election this year. So it's very interesting to see the split within the Democratic Party. It's kind of another narrative I think is really interesting to watch over the next year or two. But nonetheless, here we have Chris Hansen, I would say dishonestly running for office, getting 75,000 votes, only to turn his back against the community and say, "Hey, I never had any intention of serving uh, in this office again, and I'm moving on, going to make some money, do something different." And so who's next? Who are they going to appoint? Is it going to be some radical Marxist socialist? I don't know. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. Something to be aware of, but just another little bit of funny business here in Colorado politics. So hope you're well. Take care, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks again. It's Brandon from Free State Colorado.